So, welcome to the next episode of Beyond the Couch, coming live from the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. Got it right that time. And I have Lucy Charping, who is a peak performance coach and a hypnotist, and she is going to tell us why stress is good.
Well, how to master stress and how to use stress.
There you go.
How to optimize it,
Right,
yeah.
So the mastery of stress.
Yeah.
And she's just done an amazing presentation here. She's going to tell us all about it. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's
yeah,
all right.
it's great.
Glad to have you on.
Yeah. My talk was The Feel is Real, the Why is Alive. Say yes to stress and rewire your emotion in real time. It's like this. So how that works is facing and using stress. So ultimately, if you came to my talk, I would have shown you a really kind of stress-invoking video of a man called Alex Honnold, who is a world-renowned rock climber. And he climbed Taipei 101 without any rope, no harness, and just him. And it was a perfect example of how the feel is real, but the why is a lie. The entire room had a surge of stress and adrenaline, but their feet are safely on the ground and they're just in that room, right? And why is that? And it's because our brain doesn't respond to facts. Our nervous system responds to prediction and meaning. And so my talk was all about understanding prediction, how prediction works, and how we can use that and decouple the threat response or our stress responses, prediction, from meaning and emotion. So we went into a bit of busting of emotion and what emotion is and what it isn't. And yeah, it was fantastic. I had a really great time.
Obviously, stress and anxiety are probably the two biggest things that we come across as therapists.
Oh, yeah.
And probably the two biggest cause, especially anxiety, is probably the biggest cause of most of the things that we deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is. And I'm glad that you say anxiety, because a lot of people use the word fear. And that's a common term that we use. I have a fear of this, I have a fear of that, really. But fear is actually very relative to danger. Fear is, we experience fear when we have an adrenaline rush or a stress response, and the meaning of danger is attached to that, perceived danger. That equals fear. The adrenaline or stress response plus the meaning of lack of control or perceived lack of control, that's what equals anxiety. And that's what most people are actually experiencing. And so, although we say fear, we're kind of programming ourselves to think we're more scared when it's actually, we need to learn the difference between discomfort and danger. And that's what I help people with, is learn that.
And also, stress and anxiety, people lump them together, but they're two very different things.
Well, stress is a stress response. Anxiety is just a stress response, an adrenaline rush with a meaning attached to it. So stress is the biological, physiological response in the body, and what we consider anxiety is when that meaning gets attached to it. So anxiety is a stress response plus a meaning attached of, I feel out of control somehow. And that's essentially what it boils down to. And when you can decouple those things, the meaning from the response, you can have a sensation and it not turn into anxiety. It can just be an adrenaline rush and it can move through you, or you can recognize that that is energy in your body, and then you can discharge, or not just discharge, direct that energy so it's no longer hyper arousal and it's just stress. And stress is actually something we can use to kick into an optimized state or a flow state. And in that place, we get reward chemistry. And that's how we trigger our endorphins. And that's how we feel better. It's triggering that reward chemistry.
And so, lots of people watching this will know what anxiety feels like.
Yeah.
Have you got a tip for people who are feeling anxious? Because anxiety is kind of that predictive behaviour, that predictive pattern. What if? If you catch yourself in that anxious moment, to actually allow them to step back and come out of that anxiety. Do you have any tips for people to?
I do, and I wouldn't say step back, I'd say step forward.
There you go.
I would say step forward. It is the avoidance that's is amplifying. So avoidance creates relief. And relief releases dopamine, and dopamine says, do it again. So you accidentally program into yourself via dopamine, via it's called operant learning. What is rewarded is repeated. And through that, you accidentally create the habit of avoidance loop. And that amplifies anxiety. So the way to bring that down for you is to face it and say yes to stress. So instead of no, everything about you, when you think about it, you're in anxiety and you're like, I don't want it, right? You're fighting it, you're trying to avoid it. But if you say yes and turn to it, you can disempower that anxiety, and then you come down from hyperarousal, which is anxiety, just into stress, and we can use that stress.
And we know that you are actually, with anxiety, you're still physically safe.
Oh, yes.
You're in a physically safe place. And a lot of people, because they feel the anxiety spiral's out of control, they feel they don't have control, and without that control, they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Can I just remind you, where am I now?
Yeah.
What's my exact moment now? What's my threat now?
Yeah.
Will help you just step through it.
Exactly.
Not step back from it, step through it.
Yeah, step forward. It's like the power question to me is, am I in real and present danger, or is this discomfort? And if you can ask yourself that, now if you're in the heighten of it, especially if it's moving into panic and you're in the heightened of it, you might just need to direct some of the energy first. And you can do that if you're in fight response. Everything about you is primed to fight and you want to fight, right? So rather than like trying to squash that down, you can, if you're about to have a meeting and you're in fight response, you need to get rid of some of that energy, go into the toilet, silent scream, punch the air, jump up and down, bounce on the spot. You're just using up the excess energy, and then you'll bring yourself down just enough. If you're in flee or flight response, you can, my power move is singing. You need to move the energy. So singing can do that. You can bounce up and down on the spot. I'm as big as you can get it. I'm a fan of that, right? It's like, don't worry about embarrassing yourself, because if you can get yourself out of an anxiety attack or a panic attack in a couple of minutes without having to rely on something else, it is worth that tiny moment of discomfort, of insecurity about judgment, for you to change yourself like that.
And I mean, to be honest, I mean, if you did go and have a scream, do whatever, we have this big fear of what people are going to think of us.
Yeah, judgment, yeah.
People generally ain't taking any notice.
They've
got their own lives, but I mean, one of the things you mentioned there about the scream, must have been about 25 years ago, I got introduced to Primal screaming.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh my God, let out a scream, for God's sake. There was 30 of us in a room, and it was a men's mental health thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say at least 20 of us burst into tears at the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
It was just what the fuck?
Yeah.
So, let out a scream.
Yeah, and you can, if it's, and sometimes it's not appropriate to scream at the top of your lungs, right? You might be in an office or whatever, but you can silent scream. The point is, if you use the energy in your face like this and you just move it all, you're using the energy. If you get to actually let out a full-on scream, and if you don't scream, turn it into a song, because that's just easier in a social environment. And someone might think you're weird, you might look weird for a second, but who cares? You're about to change how you feel like that.
And what I thought with the first Primal scream is you get a sudden rush afterwards.
Yes.
It really is a whoa.
Yes. Well, that's it. You've triggered reward, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of saying yes to stress.
And it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Feel better now.
Yeah.
And a lot. I mean, you see a lot of sports people before they go and do the weightlifting, do their own, they're really kind of psych themselves up, getting all that nervous energy out. To be able to have focus and perform. 100%.
I mean, I work with world level athletes. I currently work with a 10-time world champion canopy pilot, which is a division of skydiving. And you hear him right before, because basically he's spiraling down to the ground, swooping at 119 miles an hour, and then he has to skim across the ground or across water, inches or foot in the water, right? That's intense. And to help him focus, you will hear him right before he does his major maneuver go, ah, and scream out, and it just allows him to discharge that unnecessary tension, that extra stress energy, and then he comes, and that then triggers him into a flow state, because he's not up in hyperarousal, anxiety, he's just come down a little bit. I call it a bee's dick, and that's a really small amount. So a little bit down, and then you trigger that reward, and you can trigger to go into flow state. And it's fantastic. Do what you need to do, people. Seriously, do what you need to do.
I mean, to be fair, if I was skydiving, I think I'd be screaming for another reason.
Oh yeah, maybe, but only the first time, because the next time your brain would be familiar, and you'd be like, oh, I got them reward.
And that's a lot of the anxiety, is our predictive brain, predicting what's going to happen, playing that what-if game, trying to keep us safe.
Yeah. It's just anticipatory dread.
Yeah.
And it's not, when I say it's just, that's not to take away the intensity of the experience. I understand. I have experienced anxiety, panic, and all of that. I have trauma reactions, have a very, very serious neurological condition. But that's why I am so absolute about how you can change this. It's like there is no doubt in my mind that if you are willing to do that practice, if you are willing to do what it takes, you will change how you feel. You absolutely will.
Which is why I think it's so important, especially on these podcasts, that I've got experts like you coming on explaining it, because I wouldn't understand because I've never been there.
Yep.
I can empathise, and probably sympathise, but I can't fully understand. But because you've been there, you can bring that understanding into your training and into your help with other people.
100%.
Which is why I absolutely love this. Someone call it an industry, this community.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. So if people want to find out more about you and your stuff and your work, how can they find you? Where is it?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
How do they hunt you down?
They hunt me down. You can go to my website, which is www.lucycharping.com, and that's Sharping with a C, not an S. You can
Lucie.
Correct. LucyCharping.com, and that's my website. You can find me on Instagram as Lucy Charping Coaching. You can find me on Facebook as Lucy Charping. I have a book out. It's called Microdosing Flow, Say Yes to Stress. And microdosing flow is exactly what we're talking about. Triggering small amounts of reward, drug-free, no drugs, triggering small amounts of reward via challenge, rising to the challenge. And then that gives you the flow pharmacy, your endorphins, which are our internal opiates that bring you down or kick you into a flow state. And you can just get on with your day. And what used to take over you, it can be a thing that's just happened and now it's done and we're off to the next thing.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links at the bottom here, and I'll get a photo of the book and a link to the book, because I'm sure it's available on...
Yes, it's actually, I'm published with a publishing house in San Francisco, so you can order the book through my website or directly through norfolkpress.com, but it's easier to just go through my website. It links straight to the publishing house, and I will be having an audiobook coming out in the not too distant future.
Okay. Well, when that comes out, let me know, and I'll pop that in the comments.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you.
Yeah.
And very informative. As I say, with all of these podcasts, I've been doing this, I don't know how many years now. My hair wasn't great when I started, but I still learn off every one of them. We've all got something to teach each other. So thank you very much for watching. Graeme and Lucy, Beyond the Couch. Remember, hit that subscribe button down below, wherever it might be, for more content.
That's it.
I'll put all this content in later on.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aloha.